You guys are masked up, probably not over
Besides
there.
Wednesday, I work from home.
I mean, lead is
Every
dangerous.
So I work 2
Kill
days.
you.
Right.
Can cause cancer.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
It's August the 5th, 2024 at 6 PM, and it's time to call the city council meeting to order. Ms. Jones, roll call, please.
Mr. Austin,
Present.
Mr. Shuck,
Here.
Ms. McGinnis,
Here.
Ms. Nally,
Here.
Ms. Price,
Here.
Mr. Bryan,
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese, prayer and pledge.
All right, invite you to join me. Our Father, we come to you tonight. We thank you for the privilege of being here in City Hall. Pray that you be with this meeting. Give wisdom and discernment for all the matters that are considered and decisions that are made. We pray that you be with our new firefighters as they're sworn in. I pray that you bless them, keep them safe, protect them, bless their families for the sacrifice they make to keep us safe, and give them a great career here in Franklin. Pray that you be with the rest of the items on the agenda, that all decisions that be made would be for the best of this community and its residents. Thanks so much for this country, our state, our city, and all those who serve it. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Okay, thank you all for coming tonight. We're going to start out. We have, as Brian mentioned, we have 3 new fighters that are going to be here to start their career out in Franklin. So Austin Worth, Lane Sears, and Andrew Snyder, not spelled the same as Chief Snyder. So.
Good game.
So we're going to do this a little different tonight. We're going to do all 3 at the same time. That way you guys can't fight your whole career if you got started first. Okay, so please raise your right hand. I. A member of the Franklin, Indiana Fire Department. Do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States of America. The Constitution of the State of Indiana. And faithfully discharge all of my official duties. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Hopefully you're all 3 years forever.
Let's start out with Austin. Lane.
Have you been training in that kind of?
So this is my second father-son combo. John started a month after me. He'll be starting his 19th year in October.
firefighters for coming out and supporting us. So you can tell the veterans no. This is the time if you want to exit, now's the time. More than welcome to stay.
With that said, Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda from the meeting minutes from July 15th City
Second.
Council
We have a
meeting.
motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. I just got one thing to say. Is there any other announcements or public comments that someone wants to bring up? Hearing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda, or the old business.
Move to read old business by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read old business by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approval of budgetary ordinance 24-17, additional appropriation into the Board of Works employee insurance in amount of $1.1 million. Clerk Treasurer Jan Jones.
This was introduced actually 2 meetings ago, and then we had to table it because of advertising and dates. This is just to maintain our cash reserves, getting us through 24 and starting 25.
Okay, is there any questions? Hearing none, we can approve this one tonight.
Move to approve budgetary ordinance 24-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to item 2, approval of budgetary ordinance 24-18 to reappropriate $40,000 for the Headstone Foundation repair project at Green Lawn Cemetery. Park Superintendent Chip Horner.
Being more than happy to answer any questions you have about it.
Chip, were we able to get started on the project?
It actually will start tomorrow.
I thought it was getting real close.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Got to make sure I can pay them first. Not me, they want that, not me.
Okay, we can't approve this one tonight. It was, I think it was introduced July the 15th.
I'll move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Okay, go on to new business.
Move to read new business by title only.
Second.
A motion and a second to read by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go on to item number 1, introduction of budgetary ordinance 24-19 to appropriate the Community Crossings 2024 Part 1 State Fund in the amount of $888,753.47. What this is the state's portion of our community crossing grant. The city council has already appropriated our portion, the matching part, and we've already approved to spend the funds. So this is being introduced tonight to just put it in the fund where we can spend it with our part.
So we have received it already?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so that one's been introduced. Next item, Council Resolution 2024-06, authorizing acquisition of the real property located next to the Franklin Active Adult Center, 350 Ritchie Street. Park Superintendent Chip Horner.
Hello again. Different hat. I'll leave you a little background before we get into the details of this. Since we're going planning the Active Adult Center project and going through all the planning and design and everything, we run into what could potentially be a problem. And it's 350 Ritchie Street is the parcel of land that has a little house on it. So if you're imagine that you're at the old senior center and you're going to look north on Ritchie Street, it's the very first house that really butts up to the parking lot. As a matter of fact, they have, the lot is so small that they have always used the Active Adult Center for their parking. They literally, I couldn't even, I don't know, I could have put a golf cart on the side of this house. It's so close to Ritchie Street. We also found out through all the planning process that their water line for this house leaves their front door and terminates in our parking lot. Literally right in the middle of our parking lot. Their sewer line runs the other way toward Water Street, right directly through what would be the new parking lot. So to avoid those kind of things, because those are going to be pricey to move, we would have to move those. We obviously don't want that to be in the new facility.
And actually, technically, they would have to move them potentially because
Yeah.
they can't adversely possess property against us. So it was a legal
Yeah.
quagmire to which we've tried to figure out, there's got to be a better way to do this.
Absolutely. We actually approached the homeowner about, were you interested in if we would potentially purchase your property? Not only does that solve all those problems that we talked about, but it also allows us to expand the parking lot just a little bit more and maybe get 10 or 12 more parking spots out of it. I did contact all kinds of people, including our legal counsel, which I appreciate her help. We got some appraisals for the land. The first one was $98,000, and the second one was $108,000. So the law says we have to take the middle of those two, which is $103 off the top of my head. So that's what we are. That's the maximum I can offer her is $103,000. She accepted that. She was very happy to do that because she knew she was in a predicament because there was about to be a parking lot about 6 feet from her front door. She would have stepped out of her stoop onto our parking lot. That's how close our property line was to hers. I did ask Lynn to do this ordinance, and I'm here seeking tonight your permission to buy that property for $103,000.
Happy to answer any questions, because Chip and I did work on it. It's really the only logical way. It benefits her, it benefits us. Anytime we have more space for our residents, that's probably one of the concerns up there to begin with when we had the design. And so it made a lot of sense. We're within the legal requirements with the two appraisals. Not to presume what you would all do, but also ask, just because of the nature of the problems that were on the property, I asked Chip to go ahead and get title work done to see if there's anything else out there. And the title work came back clean, other than the claims that we would have against her for encroaching on our property, which we would not assert if we now own it. So it really, I do think, once we get, if you decide to do this, and I think we have the funding available to do it built into, is that correct, Mayor? Built into the project itself.
Yeah, do you want to talk on that a little bit, Chip, or you want me to?
Okay, go ahead.
So to start with, we know the property, the project come in under budget, so we could probably buy this property with just what our straight budget was. However, I've been real reluctant to say this publicly. We are in the process, and Dana, help me here a little bit if I start to get out of bounds. We're in the process of receiving a $750,000 grant from the Ready 2 funds, and that would go into the Active Adult Center project. So we wouldn't be paying for the project with those funds. We would be paying for this property out of the funds that's already been appropriated. That way, all the $750,000 funds would go towards the project. So, and I was asked, I think, Ann, you may have asked me this when we talked about the grant. So if we get the grant, what happens to the money that's left over that we've appropriated? It simply goes back into the general fund. So we do have the funds to do this without taking anything away from our general fund.
Krista, are you doing that? Thank you. I think
Yeah,
that
there-
helps.
yeah, thank you. There's a
Thank you.
visual if you'd like to see it.
That kind of tells you the predicament that she is in, and we are as well.
She does not own the tree behind that house, if that tells you anything. So,
And I will say, whenever I said I'm reluctant to talk about the grant, because you never want to talk about things until it's totally in writing. And it has been, the Ready Group has approved it along with the other 21 projects, 22 projects. And it has to go to the IEDC for their final stamp and their final approval. And we don't anticipate any hiccups there. That's about all I can say with that. Now, the reason I'm, again, reluctant to say, if it come back a month later and we didn't get that grant, and I said this publicly, I'm going to be a lot of egg on my face, so.
Well, but we still have the money in our budget
We
because we've
still-
been
Either way,
able to
yeah.
get other things under budget. So we'll still work within the money that you've already appropriated for us.
And demolition and the extra expenses is covered?
Yes.
Okay.
How much additional parking are you expected from this?
Probably 10 to 12 spots, I would think. It also, I don't have the plan in front of me, but currently what you would see is that new parking lot would actually snake over away from her property, and now it won't have to do that. It won't have to snake over, it can actually just come straight through now, which would be a big improvement, so.
And we could actually take action tonight.
Yes, you can take
unless-
action.
Unless the council
Yeah.
wants to think about it or
Yeah,
something.
the law requires the council to make to give the approval for it, for the expenditure of the funds as well as the purchase of the property. And the law requires that we pay no more than the average of 2 appraisals. And that is the number that she has agreed to accept.
I'll make a motion to
Second.
authorize acquisition of the real property located next to the Franklin Adult Center on Ritchie Street.
Second.
And sorry, sir, but I believe I also ask in the resolution and authorize the mayor and/or his designee, which would be Mr. Orner, to execute all documents necessary because we'll have to go to a closing.
I'd like to add that statement as well.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more questions? If there is, now's the time. If not, we have a motion and a second and ready for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, Chip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that gets us to other business, and on the agenda, we have discussion on update to zoning ordinance downtown overlay district, historic downtown. Counselor Todd Shook.
Mayor, thank you. This topic was brought to my attention recently at a meeting that was proposed by the Franklin Heritage Incorporated, FHI, and was at the Chamber of Commerce office. We met to discuss this, and that's where we're at. We've met a few other times, and so I'm going to turn it over to Senior Planner Joanna Tennell so that she can explain it in much more detail.
Yes, so this idea regarding relooking at our historic preservation, specifically to downtown, was brought to City Council and the departments in the city, Glenn Ferris with Danny Causey, DDF, Franklin Heritage. Also, we've had meetings with community development, and in discussing the desire to relook at how we treat downtown and the historic nature, especially with a number of projects that have been going underway right now, some of them in which has fit into the character of downtown a little bit better than other ones. So we do have a section of the zoning ordinance that is the downtown overlay district that has a lot of language regarding historic preservation, how you handle those things. When we went through the process a number of years ago and that section was added to the zoning ordinance, at that time, the regulatory portion of that language was removed to then be suggestive. So all the shalls and wills were changed to should and could. So nothing was enforceable. In our discussions in those working groups, instead of going through and establishing a new commission that would add another layer of government and meetings and staffing, that we could actually look at our existing ordinances, regulations, and procedures and do a modification of those. So what we were discussing is what may fit better is modifying our current zoning ordinance in that that downtown overlay district, and also our procedure that includes the technical review committee of adding a subcommittee to it for architectural review. That way, everything's already included in our regulations. We already have the streamline process in place. It's something that staff is already familiar with, developers are also familiar with. So what we're looking for this evening, in order to make a modification to the zoning ordinance, it can only be started by one of two methods. Either the Plan Commission starts that process, and they discuss it, make a motion, and then we proceed with amending the zoning ordinance. The other way the Indiana Code allows an amendment to the ordinance is that it be initiated by the city council. So since this topic was brought before city council by constituents and groups that have been very active in downtown and the historic preservation, including Franklin Development Corporation with all of their efforts of, you know, the grants and programs of increasing and saving a lot of those facades, that we felt that it was made more sense for that to be initiated by city council. So that's why we're here before you, essentially asking, you know, is this something that you would like to consider going through the process? What we would do is take the existing language that we have in the ordinance, and then also take the language that Glenn Ferris and DDF has provided and see what makes sense. We would then, you know, have a draft of the ordinance. We'd have a number of working sessions. The way that process would then go is that amendment would go before the Plan Commission as a public hearing. They would make a recommendation to City Council. City Council then has the ultimate authority to approve, deny, or even revert back to Plan Commission with amendments. So,
Chris, did you have the overlay district that you can show everyone?
I don't think it's on there.
The- Franklin, Indiana, not Franklin, Tennessee.
Are you connected?
Every time I go on the city's website, that's the first one that pops up.
Or the, you need.
This is exactly what technology's great. Remember the old days, you had to bring in a big board? Now you can do it. It's wonderful now.
There should be a map on page.
It's in the zoning ordinance, isn't it? Zoning map, there it is. There. The yellow hatched? The green one? Okay, that green, that's the green hatched? That is our current downtown overlay district. We have other overlay districts in the city on the primary thoroughfares in and out. And essentially what overlay districts are, for those new to the board, is we have a zoning map, right? That has general restrictions, requirements, those kind of things. And then there are certain areas within a city that by council's designation, they believe them to have of such importance that you can create overlay districts. In those areas, you can have different and/or heightened requirements. So for instance, the entryway into the city off of the interstate, that's an overlay district. That's why you'll see maybe some different sign restrictions and things of that nature. 31.
31, yep.
31 is an overlay district. So you have your typical zoning, and then you have the additional things on top of it. I don't even remember how many years ago, Krista or Joanna, when we did a downtown overlay district, but that was the same thought process, that maybe in this particular district, because of the unique features and/or its prominence within the city, we would have additional requirements that don't normally apply to other areas in the city. So that's what an overlay district is. And you're thinking of modifying the overlay district only requirements, correct?
Just for the downtown overlay.
Downtown area.
Modifying those, the existing language there to be regulatory and something that we could enforce. And then for the process itself, since we already have the technical review committee, Indiana Code allows us to have subcommittees of that committee. So you can have an architectural review committee, which may be even something that we could look at for the gateway overlay, because currently staff is the only entity that looks at the gateway overlay requirements. It might prove beneficial that anything in the overlay go before that architectural review committee. And what we would anticipate is, you know, the members of that committee would be individuals that are versed in architectural, historic nature, you know, representatives from the different groups that are active in it, architects, planners, you know, people who are actually qualified to look at it.
And they're advisory in nature to give
The other
recommendations.
benefit of having it be part of the zoning ordinance versus a historic preservation commission is that we also have an appeal process that's already built in through Indiana Code that, you know, if there is an exception that needs to be brought before where they can't meet something, they can then go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and request a variance versus, you know, the Historic Preservation Commission, the appeal process is substantially different. So in our discussions, you know, initially it seems like it makes sense to take the existing tools and processes we have in place and do that first. And if it does get to a point where it looks like, you know, we would benefit from establishing a historic preservation commission, that we could relook at that at a future date.
So your request to the council today is some type of formal resolution to initiate the process of revising
The
and
downtown overlay.
overlay district?
And Joanne, I think I know the answer to the question, but maybe others may not. And what's the reasoning behind the proposal?
There's been a lot of investment in downtown with getting structures, you know, that were dilapidated to be brought up to not only code, but also the historic character that, you know, Franklin is known for. And in addition, like I had mentioned, we have a couple of projects that are, you know, brand-new projects that, should this have been in place, they could still build their projects. They would just have standards of what sort of features they would have to provide, which is also beneficial to go into a project knowing that you need to provide cornices or, you know, extra features, that they aren't going in blind. And then also it just helps keep downtown cohesive without having something stick out that's not the same, kind of like, you know, the concrete building next to us.
Thank you.
My office? You talking about my office?
Not your office, yours is brick.
I knew that was
I thought y'all gave me a award for going historical on that. You want it back?
Oh, Lord.
And we've heard a lot of discussion of the two multifamily projects that are currently under development, of how one fits more into the character of downtown than the other.
Sure.
So if we had this in place, we would have both of them fitting the character.
And also protects the, someone from buying a property and leveling it.
No.
It would not do that. It
But-
would outline what they would need to do in order to rebuild.
To rebuild. At the price of land, they're not going to do it unless they have an idea to rebuild.
Thank you. Just trying to get a little bit more meat on the bone for you there,
Yeah.
because it's one page. We just had one page. That was it.
Yeah, but
Discussion.
Yeah, but we're looking for a motion, because as Joanna said, zoning amendments require initiating either through the plan commission, which we normally do at the plan commission when it's other zoning areas and things like this, but this is of such significant, the council, plus to her point, it was brought to the council's attention by some of your constituents. So we need a motion for you to initiate a review and revisions to our existing downtown overlay district.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you'll
We'll
look
bring
at-
a lot more information
Yeah.
forward the next time.
The details then. We gotta
Thank
get
you.
started. Thank you.
All right, that gets us to council member comments. We'll start with Jennifer.
Nothing, sir.
Irene,
Nothing for me, sir. Thank you.
Todd,
Nothing, sir.
Sean,
Nothing, thank you.
okay, Ken,
I don't have anything, thank you.
Ann.
Just want to wish everyone good luck this year as the school year starts, both teachers and students and parents. Can't leave the parents out.
Josh.
I want to give kudos to the Parks Department and anybody else that had the forethought and vision to take the community park over on King Street and remodel it and put all the pickleball courts in there. In the 7-8 years that I've lived down here, and I walk through there all the time, normally would only see a couple of people, at any given time, really, there at that court playing basketball or playing tennis. Since having the pickleball courts there, that place is packed all the time
is.
and everything. So I really enjoy seeing people taking advantage of that and everything. So,
Thank you for the comments. That's nice. Okay, Jan? Jan? I have nothing either.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Strike while the iron's hot, huh?